So the chapter A Milestone starts off with Miss Walton, and she's at JFK. She's waiting for her flight. She's at the business lounge, and she is with three other businessmen, and they're sitting around the lounge, and then they're watching television, and they're watching the stock market downfall. And the mood in the room is really uneasy. The men talk and they put on a facade of laughter and things like that. But you can tell deep inside that they're very worried for their fortunes, as much as Roberta is worried about hers. And after that, she flashes back to 2 years ago, where she thought she could stop working forever. Her story starts when she has this a lunch with this one startup, and they go to Wendy's, and they ask her if they could have hourly pay for stock. And they say, quote unquote, 10 options for every dollar per hour. She knocks off the price. And she says yes, not out of really any pity, but because she believes she doesn't need any extra money, or she doesn't need any more money. And then she thinks about it, she mulls over. She says it takes $10 million to stop working. But she says the only thing that could possibly counter this idea of, stopping working is mortality. You don't know about illnesses, future illnesses, and you don't know for how long you might live. Say you live to, she says, like 80 or 90 or whatnot, and you don't know if your money is able to sustain you for that long. But she eventually becomes very idle with her work. She stops taking new contracts. She starts being rude and being gruff. But that people take that as a sign of her professionalism, as if she were, quote, a genius. And then she ends with two contracts. The first one, she fought with a manager, and then the last one, the second one, she talks to the president, and he's very young, and she ends it by telling him that he's an idiot, and then she just stops working. She starts traveling, and she does eventually become very, very, very idle. And then it flashes back to present day, where she's on her plane, and she loads the plane. She's on her seat, and then in the seat across the aisle, she sees this one man that reminds her. Sorry, she reminds her of Ethan, of what Ethan would look like to this day. And it flashes back again to 1984 in May, where she's working at Telligentsia, and these VCs come to see the system. They come, and the company is providing a demo for them, essentially. But as it is, the bug comes back. And this is the part of the chapter that holds the name of the title of the chapter. So it says here, Harlan says, Thank you all for coming to witness our first major milestone," which turns out to be not a very big milestone, because the bug comes back and ruins the demo. And then it flashes finally back to San Francisco, and she's talking about her boyfriend, how her boyfriend comes late. He takes a late flight. And then it talks about how their relationship isn't so emotional. It's not very deep, and it's not very satisfying to her. She has this one fantasy that they'll embrace each other at the airport, and that doesn't really happen, and she's quite disappointed. And the only thing that she really finds makes up for it is sex, and that's something that she finds her boyfriend is quite reliable with. And that's where the chapter ends. Now, there are a couple of themes, major themes, that appear in this chapter. The first one is that of age, and the author really makes a note of putting people's ages in, or noting youth or older age as something that's important, because many times age is the key to power. She talks about in her flashback 2 years ago about her stint with the young contractor for the World Wide Web company. And she says, quote, this is on page 92. I stared at the young little president, cool eyewear, eyebrow pierced with a tiny silver ring, lock of hair stained blue. He imagined he had just invented the world as the young are supposed to do. But usually we don't let them run things while they're in that state. So there's definitely a disparity between the ages, young and old. Young people are seen as, he's fresh, he's new, he's got ideas. He imagines he's just invented the world. But this is in contrast to her, who's older. She's in her 40s, and she says, we don't let them run things while they're in that state. Because as an older person, she has experience, she's much wiser about things. So age becomes a distinction there. She also talks on page 93 about when after she finishes her job, or she gives up working, she says, quote unquote, young people admired me, though they found me a bit slow, retired as I am at 48, not 33. That's important because she is retired at 48, not 33. That's considered old. People believe at 33, these young people believe at 33 you should have created your success. You should have been able to retire. But she's 48 and she's that's considered old to be retired, which is not true. 48 is quite young to be retired. Then this is in the 2000s. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 2000s. So age is something that's quite important. She also notes in page 95, I can't, quote unquote, I can't even pity myself. A 40-year-old coupon clipper going back to work serves her right. And that's different because she's 48, and that going back to work serves her right, as if to say that she retired too early, that she should have kept working. So those two are very stark contrast to each other. But in all three quotes, age is something that becomes very important because she really notes her age and youth and being older. The second theme is that of capitalism and wealth. And this is one of the bigger themes in the chapter. You see the effects of such big capitalism in people's lives. On page 93, she says, quote, still absurd as it all was, it was almost possible to be a believer. For a slim moment to marvel at the sheer frightening muscular power of capitalism. Whenever I traveled for a few weeks, I would come home to find whole corners demolished in the Soma I live in. Internet Central, every former factory now chock-a-block with offices for startups. So here, capitalism creates the wealth for new people. These people choose to start up businesses in this area, and the world she thought she knew is now constantly changing. It's taking place of the old and obsolete businesses that used to be there. So it's hit home for her because that's exactly where she lives. She says, continuing, a whole quadrant of town that had lain dormant, languishing, decaying, swept away in a great capitalist surge of creative destructions. So again, there's the idea that, you know, capitalism is constantly changing and affecting us, even though it wouldn't seem so direct. It's constantly changing her and the place she lives and where she's at. So capitalism is huge and it's important, and it's something that takes hold of people's lives. And the last thing that this chapter talks about, and it's a constant theme that happens throughout the book, especially because the book is based on it, is technology, and the power of technology on people. There is a quote. There's a quote on page 93 that says, "Only a dream as compelling as the internet could have propelled otherwise sane men and women to set their sights on real estate, that horribly trailing indicator where it takes a generation to get your money back from a hole in the ground." So right there, she tells you that they know the consequences of real estate and of how difficult it would be to get back on your feet and get your money back. But people take the chance anyways because of internet, because of the opportunities that technology delivers them. And this is best described on page 94, on the second paragraph, the very beginning. She quotes, "The poor internet land of 1,000 dreams trampled in its stampede for quick money." So the internet is this place that's 1,000 dreams. It's a land of opportunity. You're supposed to get rich in it. It's the very birth of this, such an important tool. The internet is huge, and it's this place of this opportunity and whatnot. But she understands that you come as quick and you go as quick. It's something that you put that has a lot of risk involved. You put a lot in it, it takes away a lot, just as much. So those are really big and important themes that happen in this chapter, that of age, of the power and of capitalism, and the power of the dream of the internet, and how that can take over people.